My guess is that the best move for the quality of life in America in the future might very well be this establishment of this new Department of Education.
The budget plan I submit to you on February 8th will realize major savings by dismantling the Departments of Energy and Education.
I told Linda, I hope you do a great job and put yourself out of a job.
Well, President Trump today signed an executive order that begins the process of closing the Department of Education. With that, let's bring in Secretary of Education Linda McMahon. She leads that agency. We don't know for how long. Madam Secretary, thank you for the time on a rainy day in Washington. How does this work? I want to talk first about the process. What happened today with the executive order? How do you expect to get legislation to undo the Department of Education to get through something like the Senate with a 60-vote threshold?
Well, Brett, thank you very much for having me this evening. I can tell you we know that the task ahead, certainly has some hurdles. But what my desire is, and what I'm going to be working to do, is to work in conjunction with Congress. I think if we can show them that the best plan is to have states in control of education for their communities, for their students, for their teachers, for their parents, that is the best thing, because the president believes, as do I, that the best education is closest to the student, and we can accomplish that by having it operate out of the state and not trying to manage it from Washington, D.C., which clearly, Brett, that hasn't worked. The Department of Education was set up in 1980 by President Carter. We've spent almost $3 trillion. We've seen our scores continue to decline. We're doing something wrong. We need to change.
The president seemed to be very careful in what he said, that it would be done lawfully to unwind the Department of Education. And the directive, it says, to the maximum extent appropriate and permitted by law, take all appropriate steps to facilitate the closure of the Department of Education. Is there like a hedging of those words? Because, you legally can't really erase it without those votes.
Well, I think he was correct in saying that we were going to do everything legally. That's what he has said to me from the very beginning. He would like for me to move as swiftly as we can, because he believes the sooner that we can close the department, the more efficiently we can have the funds distributed to the states, and perhaps they will even have more funding when there isn't the overhead and bureaucracy from the Department of Education. But clearly he wanted to state and let Congress know that he intends to work with them. I want Congress to be a partner in this, and I believe they will be. Because both sides of the aisle know that what is happening to education in our country cannot be allowed to stand, because we are failing our students.
The left is obviously very upset about this. I'll take it from both sides, as you're pointing out. Here is Randy Weingarten. Take a listen.
A kid who has disabilities, a kid who is poor, a kid who's going to Head Start, a kid who's in a rural area. They're talking about taking this money away from kids and putting it into block grants and giving it as vouchers, which basically serve kids who are already in private schools.
So I'd like you to address that directly.
Well, certainly Randy Weingarten and I have not had any opportunity to have a conversation. I at one point heard her say a day or two ago that the president was going to take education away from children. And clearly that's not what we're going to do. We want to make education better for children. The president is an absolute proponent of school choice. And we are going to work very hard to make sure that children are not held prisoner in failing schools. Over the past couple of days, I have toured charter schools throughout the state of Florida. And I went to one school that's called a classical school, where they were really back to basics with their multiplication tables and reading by phonics, returning to the science of reading. These children were absolutely joyous in their classroom. They were having fun. The teacher was having fun. They were reciting their times tables. And this fourth grade, I'm sorry, 4-year-olds doing this. And they were just amazing. So we want to see that kind of enthusiasm and that kind of success rates in every school across the country.
And just to put some stats on it, you were born in New Bern, North Carolina, which is Craven County, North Carolina. That's a rural region. And if you look at the math and reading scores, and we have this graphic here, 21 to 24, you can see math in 21 and 22, and reading 51.6, 49.9, and then 23, 24 actually goes down, 46.5 to 48.6. That tracks other places around the country that have seen proficiency go down despite the level of money going up.
Well, I think that's been the president's, hue and cry. He said we are spending more money per pupil than any country in the world, and we're seeing less results. That's a clear indicator that we are not doing the best thing we can do for our students. I do think returning to basics is the best way to do it. We need to teach math and English and literacy and writing. We don't need to teach ideology. We have to let teachers teach. I have such respect for our teachers. I think it is the most noble profession in the world, and I have seen what can happen when teachers are allowed to teach and to be innovative and be creative in their classrooms. Brett, for every dollar that goes into the school system, the federal funding, it's been reported to me that almost 47 cents of that dollar is spent in regulatory compliance. Teachers, they don't want to stay. They're leaving the profession because they are bogged down by regulation. Let's lift that burden and let them do what they do best, which is teach.
I've played the Randy Weingartner, and from the left, Bernie Sanders, other people on Capitol Hill on the left, obviously coming after you for this, and the president for this move. Let me talk to you from the right quickly. Why send the money to the states for them to administer? States like California, New York, Illinois, who conservatives would say have not had a great track record. Why not send the money to the states as a pass-through, and then they must give the money to parents and let them pick the schools and the instruction of their choice?
Well, that's one opportunity. I think we should explore that. In fact, I heard former Secretary Bennett this morning talking about sending money directly to the students. So let's take a look at that. I think there is not, I don't think there's one thing that's mutually exclusive. Let's figure out what the best plan is. Talk with the governors. That's one of the things I'm doing. I've just started. I've only been here a couple of weeks, but I've already started traveling around the country, talking to different governors, getting them on the phone, talking with different superintendent heads to say, what can we do better? How can we help you? What kind of tools can we provide you? What kind of plans for best practices can we make available to you so that you can see what other states have done and done successfully? And that's going to be the goal. Let's make sure that we are providing as much information to our states as we can so that we can get the best outcomes.
So if you work yourself out of a job, you get the votes in Congress, what do you do next?
Well, I don't know. The sky's the limit. I do enjoy public service. This is my second time of serving in an administration. I enjoy being on school boards. I've done that. I've been on the Board of Education for a university for 16 years. You resign from those, when you join the government. So those are things I'll enjoy getting back to. But first things first. Let's take care of the Department of Education. Let's make sure our students are well taken care of.
Madam Secretary, we appreciate your time.
Thank you, Brett.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.